Long-awaited DNA analysis proves that Tommy Ziegler, innocent of two murders in 1975, even though he spent 50 years on death row. He's been on death row for 50 years. He was just proven innocent. It says a trail of blood, rug fibers, and cat fur show it is impossible for Florida death row inmate, it's also in Florida, Tommy Ziegler, to have killed his wife and in-laws on Christmas Eve 1975. Fresh DNA analysis of dozens of pieces of evidence instead support Ziegler's story of walking in on a burglary at his family's furniture store in Winter Garden, his lawyers say, and provides enough reasonable doubt to overturn his convictions. They had come up with the idea that Ziegler had killed his wife, mother-in-law, and father-in-law, and then lured 3 other men into the store to try and frame them for the murder. That's what prosecutors said had happened. And by the way, prosecutors regularly just make up all kinds of garbage to get a conviction. Like, this is not rare. Anyway, he's been in prison for 48 years, and he'll be 80 in July, and he's been asking for a DNA test for years and years. When he was convicted, there were no DNA tests, or not good ones. And he finally got the DNA test, and it proves him innocent. And so this is obviously a big deal. That amount of time on death row is pretty unheard of. And finding someone innocent before they've been executed is also pretty unheard of. Ziegler said his goal in life is to clear his name. He wonders how the DNA results will be received by those with the power to set him free. So he says, we just have to wait and see if a judge will stand up after 48 years and say, we screwed up. So literally, they now have the results showing him innocent, and he's waiting for the courts to actually free him. That's in Tampa Bay. But yet again, shows you innocent people on death row. Death penalty is the dumbest, dumb, sad, barbaric sack of shit bullshit in this country. And it's one of those things I would debate anyone on. Because there's literally no reason for it. There's nothing. Anything they say for a reason for the death penalty is just wrong. Provably wrong. The only thing, once you prove all the other reasons they give, they just come back to, well, it gives closure. Well, first of all, many families have said it doesn't give closure, families of victims. Also, many families of victims have fought to preserve the life of their killer because they don't want to be responsible for killing someone. That makes them as bad as the murderer. So there are those families. So saying it gives closure, well, a lot of people it doesn't. There are also those who think it's going to give closure. And then afterwards they find out, oh, I got no closure. I just have another guy dead now. That happens a lot too. There's other people who think it's going to give closure, and then they find themselves racked with guilt that they got a man executed the rest of their lives. So like the opposite of closure. Now they've lost their loved one and they're racked with guilt over the death penalty that they supported. All of that stuff goes on. It's just bullshit. But here is a positive and a very rare and a double very rare for North Carolina. A North Carolina judge has found racial bias in a death penalty case in North Carolina, which there's racial bias in just about every death penalty case you've ever heard of. But it is very rare that a judge actually finds that there's racial bias. In a landmark case, a North Carolina judge ruled today that the race played an impermissible role in jury selection for Hassan, I don't know if it's Bacote or Bacote, but I'll say Bacote. Bacote, a black man who challenged his death sentence under the North Carolina Racial Justice Act. The court found evidence of discrimination in Bacote's case. This decision provides more definitive proof that capital prosecutions in North Carolina are tainted with racial bias and discrimination. In his ruling, Superior Court Judge Waylon Sermons Jr. found that prosecutors deliberately struck, that they don't mean hit, deliberately struck black jurors. Yeah, it was just, the prosecutor was just walking around smacking them across the face. Dude, that is so racist. Why are you smacking all the black people in the jury? No, that would be, look, we are not far from that, honestly. We are just a hop, skip, and a smack away from that. No, struck, obviously meaning removed them from possible jury consideration is what struck means. Struck black jurors from jury service in Bacote's case at 3 times the rate of white jurors. And by the way, this is so normal. When there's a black defendant, the prosecutor almost always is trying to get as few black people on that jury as possible. This is so normal and so racist. In his findings of discrimination, the judge also cited the prosecutor's references to thinly veiled racist phrases to refer to black defendants, which I don't think these even sound veiled, like thug, piece of trash, and predators of the African plain. What is going on? A prosecutor said that? Good God. Yeah, maybe it's funny. I wish that judge wouldn't have overturned our case, but maybe I shouldn't have been yelling the N-word through the whole thing. Like, what are you doing? These trials are almost always racist, even if they're not racist on the level that I was just talking about, getting rid of black jurors, etc. Even if they're not racist on that level, they're racist on other levels, such as the fact that, like I said, number one determinant, race of the victim, because prosecutors are far less likely in any state to go for the death penalty against someone who killed a non-white person, because what matters to them are those who kill white people. So that is the biggest way that it's racist. But then, of course, did the jury decide against this person because they're black? It's often harder to figure out, but you can see statistically they're more likely to convict when someone is not white. Anyway, there's a lot going on here, but at least this North Carolina judge had this finding of racial bias, which is a big deal.